All right, I've got 19 minutes left. I gotta start downloading some of this stuff. But I want to talk more about women. I do. And again, like for me, it goes back to this like MGTOW stuff, right? That guy I was listening to this morning, he was talking about the Salem witch trials, right? And he's like this sounds like this MGTOW guy, and he talks about the female nature, right? And he's talking about the female nature as it is, right? And in it, you learn about hypergamy and gaslighting and this and that and the other stuff. And like if we were scientists, then these MGTOW people would be right because it's all about just observation, right? But to me, it's a fundamental question of nature versus nurture, right? Um, and I think you see that in the Lamentations of Her, right? Um, and that's what I'm saying right now is because like before I made this video saying that I'm Eminem's daddy, right? And it's like no, it's like that's not the way to treat your daughters, you know. Your daughters have to learn to handle their own problems, you know. And ultimately, it comes back to this phrase in the Torah, which is just so funny, which is if you spare the rod, you spoil the child, right? And it's just so funny because it's like this phrase, when people think of it in their heads and they're doing their equations and their algorithms and their calculuses in their heads, this phrase always applies to boys. It never applies to girls, right? Because we treat our girls like princesses, just like Eminem talks about treating his daughter. You know, like, oh, I'm gonna beat you up. You know, I don't pay attention to you, but I'm gonna give you everything you want and beat up any of your bullies. Like, no, that's not the way to be a father. Um, I mean, you want your daughter to be able to handle her own problems. Like there's this idea of the male being the provider. The male is the provider. And when the male loses his identity as the provider, then he is devastated. And of course he is, because that's a false identity. It's a false identity. Like that's a terrible story. What a terrible story. The man being the provider. What a fucking terrible story. And that's a story that's not historically accurate, right? It's a story that begins with the industrial age, right? Because before that you have people who are more self-sufficient, and the man and the woman and the child would be their own providers, right? They would be more self-sufficient. They're not dependent on the corporation, the anti-free market corporations, and they're not dependent on the government. And it's like dependency, and women don't like dependency, and that's good. That's good that you guys don't like dependency. Because true love is between two whole people who love each other, right? Not neediness or obligation, but want, not need. Um, but it's like if we there's no discipline for our daughters, right? We don't respect them. And Eminem's attitude towards his daughter is one of disrespect. And I'm not saying he's doing this on purpose. There are just no shepherds to guide them. But this, like, I'm not saying I'm a shepherd. This is just common sense. Nature versus nurture. Like all the evidence that the MGTOW people have are of daughters who were treated like princesses all over the world. in different ways, in different customs, and different styles, but they're all still treated like princesses. I was amazed one time I was in this library, and there was this Muslim woman there, and she had this Muslim boy, and he was like throwing a tantrum, like just this spoiled ass little tantrum, and it's like she was almost too afraid to discipline him, right? Because she's the woman and he's the male child. I don't know what it was, but it's like, fucking discipline this kid for his own good and for the good of the Muslim people. Shit. Discipline this kid. But he was just throwing his tantrum, and she wasn't doing anything. But yeah, you know, I think again, if you bring this idea of nature versus nurture into it, I think it changes the whole equation. Because, you know, I think women are stronger than men. I think that's just self-evident. But whatever. That's just my opinion, I guess. Although it is self-evident. But you know, I mean, there's a phrase, that Christian phrase, what you sow is what you reap, right? But that's probably a Jewish phrase, which most Christian phrases are stolen from the Jews. But it's a good phrase. What you sow is what you reap, you know. And if you treat your daughter without respect, you know, if you treat her like this delicate little thing, like how do we treat our women in this country? Like what happens if a woman in public is arguing with a man? Everybody's going to go to that woman's defense, though they know nothing about what's happening. How disgusting. How fucking utterly disgusting. And disgusting for all you valiant villains out there. You know, everybody asks, why does the evil man succeed and why do the good men live? Well, it's because of the valiant villains out there. Oh, fuck you guys. You know, it's you know, you should figure out the situation before you make judgment. You pieces of shit. Anyways, but no, this is about respect. Respect. This is what this is all about. Respect. And this attitude that Eminem has towards his daughter is disrespectful. Because she's you know, that's the story. The story is the family fighting for what's right. Not the man, but the man and the woman and the child. David was a child. It's about the family fighting. That's the more interesting story. The boring story is the man fighting. But the more interesting, engaging story is the family fighting or not for what is right. And ultimately, yeah, no, I mean, it's like this phrase, spare the rod, spoil the child. People like say it all the time. You know, but they don't mean it because they only are like in their head, it's all about the male child. Spare the rod for the male child, spoil the male child. Like they like thinking about like fucking disciplining the female child at all is and so it's like what you sow is what you reap. That is and but at the same time there's just so much interesting data on the other side, on the MGTOW side, which it's like you know, you don't want to you want to look at the evidence, and I don't know. I mean, shit. Either either we're living in the time where love has gone cold, or or the MGTOW people are completely correct, and how how dull.